Hi parents, this is a tutorial to walk you through Naviance Family Connection use at ISB. Naviance Family Connection is a tool that we use in the high school counseling department in grades 9 and 10, really for self-exploration. So students can identify strengths, they can identify what type of learning style they have, and they can also begin to explore careers. In grades 11 and 12, Naviance is something that we use for students to build off of what they've been doing in grade 9 and 10, and they can begin exploring universities, look at previous ISB data for students who have applied to universities around the world. So the goal with this session is to get you familiar with Naviance Family Connection. For every student, they have their own login information for Naviance. Parents can also have login information in order to access their son or daughter's account. If you are a parent who has one or two, or actually, if you are a parent who has 2 or 3 students in the high school, let us know and we can link each of those student accounts so that you as a parent only have one login, username, and password to remember for them. So first, what I'm going to show you today is I'm going to walk you through some of the different tabs in Naviance. So once you've logged into Naviance, this is your main welcome screen. You'll notice that there are tabs. There's a colleges tab, a careers tab, and an about me tab. On this welcome screen, you'll also see some new information about university visits or if you've been sent an email through Naviance. First, I'm going to walk through the About Me tab. Okay. Here, students have access to something called the Strengths Explorer. This is done in grade 9, and this is an opportunity for students to identify what strengths they have and hopefully begin to use them more in school and out of school. The Strengths Explorer was actually developed by an outside organization very well known in the United States called the Gallup organization. You may have heard of them before because they conduct a lot of surveys on a variety of topics. Also, there's the Learning Style Inventory. So what kind of learner is your son or daughter? There's also something called a resume. So this is something we ask students in grade 11 to complete to begin putting together all of their activities, courses, interests, and so on, which can be really helpful if they're asked to interview for a university or if they're applying for a special summer program. This is a way for them to begin thinking about resume formatting and all of the things that need to go on a resume. Next, we're going to go to the Careers tab. So grade 10 is when we really begin talking about the possible careers that are available to students. The first thing that we walk them through is something called the Career Interest Profiler. And this is just from the student end what it looks like. The Career Interest Profiler was developed by a psychologist in the United States named John Holland. And John believed that, or did research on people who are very happy and thriving in their careers, doing very well. He identified 6 characteristics. So when students complete the Career Interest Profiler, they get a 3-letter code that comes from those characteristics he researched. And then it also matches a variety of careers based on that code. So this is really good to help students to begin to see the possible careers are out there and to begin to reflect a little bit on some of the characteristics that make them unique so that they can hopefully find things that are a good fit for them. The other tool on the main careers page that we really like is called the Career Cluster Finder. Many 16, 17, 18-year-old students aren't ready to decide on exact job or career that they want to explore for the rest of their life, but they do have a very specific interest in whether it's a subject area or working with people or sciences, etc. So the cluster finder is a bit more broad and helps students understand which general cluster of careers or tasks are a really good fit for them. The third tab is the Colleges tab. When I click on the Colleges tab, one of the first things that you'll notice is upcoming college visits. It's January right now. We don't have as many visits in January as we might in September, October, November. Also March and April tend to be big months. But here you can see whenever a university schedules a visit to come to ISB. So if I click on View All Upcoming College Visits, here are the universities that have scheduled a time to come visit us and our students. You'll see the name of the university, or sometimes there are other fairs maybe that aren't offered at ISB. So for example, this UK Education Fair in January is offered at the Grand Millennium Hotel. Also there's another British Council Fair. But for visits that actually happen on our campus, those are also included here. And you'll notice it'll tell you the date, the time, and typically these visits take place during lunch, and also the location for a particular visit. Most visits tend to happen, if they're one or just 2 or 3 universities, will happen in a room right next to the counseling center. When we have large fairs on campus, they tend to happen in the cafeteria area. Or if it's on a parent conference day, they might happen out by the Regenta Gym. Anytime you want to know who's coming, you can log in here and see. Going back to the Colleges tab, as students begin to consider a variety of institutions, they can actually keep a list of them here under Colleges I'm Thinking About. So you can see this student currently has 3 universities that have been recommended by their counselor. Students can add universities to this list, as can parents or the counselor. Counselors may also go through and identify how challenging it might be to apply to that university. And then students can also indicate their level of interest in that institution. When a student gets to grade 12 and it's time for them to apply to university, they have to fill out an ISB high school transcript request. So let me show you what happens. If I go back to the Colleges tab, and the other link you'll see is colleges I'm applying to. Once a student has completed a transcript request, at ISB, our school registrar moves that school over to colleges I'm applying to. So this is not a real student, this is Casey. If I scroll down, I'll see that Casey is applying to a number of different universities in Canada, in the UK, and in the United States. I see how ISB will send transcripts and materials, either by computer, by mail, also via Common App and computer. And this counselor has gone ahead and told Casey for each of the universities Casey's applying to, are they most likely to be accepted? In the middle, is it possible they'll be accepted? Or is this school a reach, meaning it's going to be very challenging to get accepted? You can see Casey here has a very well-balanced list, and this is ideal what we want to see students do. The other thing that you're able to do is this graph will help you identify previous ISB students who have applied, not their name, that is protected, but some of the data and information. So if I go to the graph for the University of California at Santa Barbara, okay, this is called a scattergram, and this scattergram shows me previous students who have applied. So from the years 2010 to 2014, and I'm looking, each box in X represents one ISB student who has applied. I'm looking at the SAT scale of 1600, but I can also look at SAT or ACT or IB. So ISB students who have applied to the University of California at Santa Barbara, their average GPA is at 3.68, as you can see on this line. Their average SAT score on the 1600 scale is a 1278, and that's this line. Okay. The red circle represents Casey. So if you remember, the counselor identified the University of California at Santa Barbara as a possible acceptance. So it's kind of in the middle. So they could be, they might not be. And that's because Casey is slightly below the average. However, notice there are some students who have been accepted who have lower SAT scores and GPA, and also some students right here and here who have not been accepted. What scattergrams don't show you is they don't show you the major or the course a student is applying to. If I were to guess, it's most likely that these students up here who were not accepted are applying to highly competitive programs like sciences, engineering. At some other institutions, it could be a very competitive business program like Stern at NYU or like Wharton at UPenn. So those programs tend to be more competitive. So for Casey, there's a possibility that Casey might not be accepted, and there's a possibility that Casey might be accepted. So it's kind of in the middle. If I go back to the colleges I'm applying to list, let's look at a UK university. So Casey is also considering the University of Exeter, and the counselor said it's possible that Casey could be accepted. So if I go to the graph, because Casey is an IB diploma student, we're not going to look at the SAT score. The qualification they consider at Exeter is actually going to be IB. So I'm going to change to IB. And here I see that the average IB score of students accepted is a 30. However, the majority of students are actually a 32 or higher. Most likely, these are outliers and very unusual circumstances. So I wouldn't rely on these too much when making a determination. The other thing to consider with UK universities is they are incredibly specific for each course in terms of the IB scores that you need. Okay? So depending on what Casey is considering, if Casey is considering pre-medicine is considering medicine or biological sciences, then it could be they want a higher IB score. So that's something that's really important for the student to look at, and the student needs to look at the actual UCAS website, UCAS. They can then look at ISB data too, just to get a general idea of history of students who are applying. I'm going to go back to the Colleges tab. Students can also search for universities to get some general information. The best source for information is always a primary source. So what that means is the university website. But if I were to pull up the University of Virginia, here's a general university page. So it tells you the average of students, past ISB students who have applied. It gives you some other general application history of ISB students. Also, when universities visit, counselors will take notes, and you can read the notes that we include here. You can search for more admission information, majors, etc. So the next thing we want to do is get you registered into Naviance. Every new user should go to this website. If you have never registered before, you will get a user code, and you will click here that you're new and that you need to register. That will take you to a new screen where you enter your registration code. And then you complete your registration by putting in your email address, confirming it, and you create your own password. Accept the information about privacy, and then complete registration. Remember, your students already know how to use Naviance, and they're experts. So if you have questions, don't forget to see them. And the last piece of advice with Naviance, some reminders of what to do. Explore, discuss, add colleges, but remember there's more to a student than their university application